recording. Okay.
Woohoo!
Let's
All right.
hope it works this time. I can see your face now. I don't know if you can see my face.
That's always good. I cannot. I think maybe your video is just a little bit messed up, but, you know, we're moving forward. We're getting through it. All right.
All right. Let's try this shit again.
Yes. Pack your bags, friends, because this week we're headed to Nilbog. That's right. We're focusing on Troll 2. Though we may not meet any actual trolls, we will be encountering anarchist goblins, a dead grandfather who might be God, and a green goo you should never drink. Eli experiences a duality of man, Caroline has conflicting feelings about Creedence, and both are total nerds. It's episode 5.
Oh, fuck, you've frozen again.
I feel like I'm talking to myself because I can't see you there, so I'm being more expressive than I normally am. Oh no!
Wait, I can hear you. I can hear you now.
Okay, I can hear you.
Okay, you've just frozen.
For all listeners, we're having some technical difficulties, so if this episode seems a little bit more difficulty heavy, that's why. Hello?
Yeah, you've unfrozen now.
Okay, cool. So, I think we're gonna try to do the 3, 2, 1 thing.
Yes. All right.
3,
2,
2, 1.
Hey, nerd.
I think that was maybe the closest we've ever gotten.
Perhaps.
Perchance.
Episode 5, baby!
Yeah, episode 5. We did it. We're moving right along, and it's the same people, but, you know, just in case there are any new listeners, I'm Eli, my pronouns are they, them, theirs.
I'm Caroline, my pronouns are she, her, hers.
And this is Hey Nerd. It's back. We made it to episode 5. And we're back at it again with another Brendan question. If you were a classic horror movie monster, what would you be?
Okay, I've changed my answer because we tried to record this about an eon ago, and that didn't work. So I've gone from feeling like Phantom of the Opera to fucking Frankenstein in the movie, Frankenstein's monster in the movie, because I just want to set shit on fire now. I'm just upset. That's where I'm at with this.
Oh, a mood though. I mean, yeah, it's... So I just want to give everyone some context for that. We normally start recording these episodes at 11 o'clock, or we're recording today at 11 o'clock. We actually got started at 11:05 with our first recording. It is now 11:25. We spent 20 solid minutes just trying to get to this point.
Yeah.
Which, you know, it's been a day.
Yeah. I'm not sure if it's going off schedule or maybe just the cursedness of the subject matter, but either way.
Yeah. The what we're talking about this week is too crazy, and we've inflicted a curse on ourselves.
Maybe. My
answer is the same answer that I gave earlier, because I think it's still true. Vampire, you know, I told Caroline this anecdote, but I'll repeat it. Just when I was in middle school, we went to the Menil Museum, which is like, I guess for anyone who's listening to this that doesn't live in Houston, it's a museum in Houston that's like free entry, I believe. Which is why, like, middle schools go there, because, you know, you don't have to pay to get in. But there was a drawing in the exhibit of a girl in braids, and I used to have braids in middle school, and our faces were very similar, and so a bunch of my middle school friends took this to go and make the joke that I'm a vampire, which is contributed to by the fact that I'm super pale and could be nocturnal, and, you know, I'm really feeling like sinking my claws into Skype and just sucking the life force out of it right now. So, you know, I'm one of those psychic vampires, but with technology. I suck out the electricity. And that's the kind of vampire I am.
Just gonna drain the code.
I'm gonna drain the lifeblood out of the code. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be a good time. Yeah. All right.
Done the Brendan question. Now for weekly anecdotes. So aside from, you know, the hellscape that is working with Skype this morning, because Skype just decided to throw a little temper tantrum or something, this week we also received our first email from someone who is not someone we know personally who listens to the podcast, and B, is also not like an automated messaging template service. We got our first email from Serena Johnso. Not Johnson, Johnso, which should have been a sign that something was up. But yeah, we engaged in a brief correspondence, starting with a very mysterious email that was all subject line, no body text. Just, did you receive the message I sent you earlier? And we were like, no, we missed that. So sorry. Can you repeat what it said? And she was like, the next email was, I'm gonna give you, and she said $300,000, like, typed out, but then in parentheses put $600,000, so I'm gonna say we're gonna split the difference and call it $450,000.
Yeah.
For assisting her, like, escape from delivery service? I guess she was being held hostage by Amazon. And that we had to contact some, like, Reverend Peter Johnson or something, to get this money, this, like, credit card that, would have all this money loaded onto it. And she was like, I can't do that because I can't make that withdrawal because I am military, but I am, like, safe with my husband now, and you need to do this urgently. Please email this guy. Like, it was obviously a spam email.
Mm-hmm.
But I did respond. And I was like, well, unfortunately, neither of us are very religious, and also this is not the kind of sponsorship deal we're looking for. Also, we have not met you before, so we don't feel comfortable taking any reward money for helping you, because we didn't. So
We've
happy
nothing.
that you're with your husband. Thank you for your service in the military. Thanks, but no thanks. And then Haynard Management. I didn't sign our names on the end of it.
Good.
Yeah. And then I showed my mom, and she was like, you can get a virus just by opening spam emails, so delete both of those immediately, and, like, don't respond. And I was like, oh, damn it. But yeah, it was fun.
It reminds me of that, like a series, that James Veitch series that he does about replying to spam emails, which
That's
is so great. That's
what I was trying to get going, and then my mom was like, no, you're gonna get a virus, and I was like, god damn it.
Dang. Well, I'm glad that you're not getting a virus. I also have an email story, which happened today. I got an email, so Gmail was not giving me alerts on my phone for a really long time, I think because I haven't opened Gmail in like 2 months on my phone. But then I've been corresponding with like an adult who needs to contact me. And I got this, today, as I was opening my phone, I saw this wonderful, note from Gmail, the subject line of which is this goodbye. And then, so Northeastern sent me this email with the subject line, is this goodbye?
Dramatic ass.
This could be the moment you, wait, sorry, that's wrong. Is this a goodbye? And then, after, beneath that, the first line of, like, the text of the emails, this could be your last chance to hear from Northwestern. So, Northwestern just delivered me an ultimatum of either I reply or they cut me off, like, I don't know, like a jilted lover. So, I think I make a lot of jokes about, colleges being horny for my applications because they want to improve their, they want to make their acceptance rate smaller, but, like, I didn't expect Northeastern to go that hard on the joke. So that's something that happened today that I got a lot of amusement out of.
Listen, dude, either you commit or you don't. Like, Northwestern doesn't have time for someone who, you know, doesn't make time for them.
Yeah.
And good on them for standing up for themselves, quite frankly.
That's true.
Like, yeah, it's good. It's good. Have standards when in relationships, y'all. Yeah. Don't settle.
And then the other thing, and this is mostly just for Caroline, is I just remembered I have a book about, like, podcasting and radio making that's just in my closet. And it's a comic book about this, which is fun.
That is fun.
I was like, wow, this would have been a super useful thing to remember before right now.
Yeah.
But I was going through my closet and I found that. All right.
Okay.
Those are our weekly... Oh, I guess the thing that I mentioned is that I watched it in kind of relation to what we're watching. I watched it recently, and then I realized that it wasn't as scary because my Instagram Explore page has been consistently giving me information about it for about 3 months now, so that by the time I got into the movie, I knew the whole plot, and so it was like, wow, this is just a thing that I'm experiencing, but it's not scary because I know what's gonna happen. But yeah, I watched an actual horror movie and was fine, which was a shock to me.
Yeah. Do you not normally watch a whole lot of horror movies?
I don't. I think I watched... The first horror movie I ever watched, I was like 8, and it was not... I think if I watched it now, I'd be like, oh, this isn't that scary. But it really creeped me out when I was 8. And then I watched the movie The Tales from the Crypt, which is, I don't know if it's a horror movie, it's just like a weird movie about hell. And I was like, this is not fun. I don't like this. And so I just stopped watching horror movies for a really long time. But, I'm thinking about starting again because they don't bother me as much as they did when I was 8. Because I'm a more complete person now.
Woohoo.
Almost a decade later.
Almost a decade later.
Yes.
We love to see it. Character growth, everybody. Right here.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess now it's time for our graceless segue into what we're talking about today. Which is...
Yes. We
said it at the beginning of the episode, but in case you forgot... in the course of the email conversation, Troll 2.
Troll 2, yes. So, I think I speak for both of us when I say Caroline and I first encountered this movie our sophomore year, the first semester of our sophomore year of high school, when we read the opening scene in one of our classes, as, like, kind of the example of what makes a bad script. And then a bunch of our friends... Were you there?
Yes, I was.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we, along with a bunch of our friends, got together and watched Troll 2 later in the year. And it was a glorious experience. But I recently went back and watched it by myself in preparation for this episode. And I was very this is how I will explain the movie. I was very scared it would be one of those movies that's, like, bad, but bad enough that it's funny when you're watching with other people so you can make fun of it. But it's not so bad it's funny on its own. It's just so bad that there's, like, some stuff there that's rife for comedy. And then if you're watching it with people, you can pick out that stuff that's rife for comedy and make jokes. But the movie by itself is, like, not enjoyable, just as an experience. I watched Troll 2, and I am happy to say that it is very much enjoyable just by itself. Not watching it with anyone, just watching things play out. Because it's so weird all the way through. Yeah.
I will say, just as a note, the class in which we read that scene was in fact the class of our teacher named Brendan, of the eponymous Brendan question.
Yes.
So shout out to Brendan.
Shout out to Brendan.
Introducing both the segment of our podcast and a whole episode. Good for you, buddy.
You started this, and I'm so grateful for it. I think if we want to explain the duality of man comment, so my thoughts on Troll 2 is that I can watch it, and I know that it's objectively a bad movie. Like, the plot doesn't make sense, the characters are weirdly written, the acting is bad all the way through, and the soundtrack has, like, one moment where it's good, and then it's just synth pop, which I'd forgotten. So, like, objectively, it's a bad movie. Subjectively, I love it so much, and these two thoughts coexist in my brain, is that I know it's terrible, but also it's one of my favorite pieces of media that I've consumed over the past couple of years.
Most excellent, my dude. Yeah, I do not remember much of the soundtrack. I just remember there was that one, like, group of teenagers who we all joked about, like, being in a gay poly relationship with each other, which is very fun.
It is very fun. Yes. They're such good characters. I also don't think one of them ever gets a name. Like, on rewatching, I tried to write down all the character names, and I got the name, I'm gonna go through the plot. I have, for those who can't see, which is, I think, everyone but Caroline, I have 10 pages worth of notes on this movie.
And you write small, so that's
I write
a lot.
Small. But it's also, like, small pages, so this may be, like, one notebook sheet worth of pages for each one of these, for, like, a normal person with normal handwriting. But it's a lot. I have a lot of thoughts that came up. But yeah, as I was going through it, I was trying to, like, figure out the names for everyone, so I wasn't just like, this one and that one. And I could find the name for 3 of the 4 boys, but one of them, I don't think that they ever say his name on screen.
Boy number 4.
Yeah, it's, I think Arnold, Drew, that may be wrong. Yeah, Arnold, Drew, Elliot, and then number 4. Who's just also there and has arguably the most sexual tension with Elliot, but, like, they just forget to name him. There are 2 separate scenes where Elliot and boy number 4 are arguing, just in scene, and then they get really close and have their mouths open and look like they're about to start kissing. And I don't know why they decided to do that twice, but I cannot get that out of my head, is that what... And then also the way that Holly talks about... Okay, doesn't make sense until I tell the plot, but the way that Holly talks about them double reinforces, like, the gay polyamorous thing, because she's like, you can either have me or your boys. You can't have a girlfriend if you have your boys. You love them too much. And I was like, what? Alright, so we're gonna get into it. And
okay.
You can shut me up at any time, Caroline, because this is long.
No, go for it.
Okay, so the movie starts, in kind of a reverse, Princess Bride sort of thing. Because, in the Princess Bride, it starts, like, in the kid's bedroom, and he's just, like, sick and not having a good time, and then his grandfather shows up and starts telling him a story.
Mm-hmm.
So this movie starts opposite, where you have a narrator who's narrating how this boy, Peter, was getting chased through the woods by monsters, and then it cuts out of that to reveal that it's a story being told to a little boy named Joshua by his grandpa Seth.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one really weird, like, one of the first shots of Grandpa Seth is this shot that is just of his mouth.
Mood.
Which I think sets the tone for this movie, because this is definitely the kind of movie who would show you a shot just of someone's mouth in a completely, like, nonsensical way. Between
this and, like, the Elliot thing, I get the sense that the directors maybe had a little bit of an oral fixation.
I think so, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there's also the focus on the goblins' mouths. Like, mouths are important with this movie, I guess. I mean,
that
it's
makes
a movie
me
about
uncomfy.
Eating things, so, alright, so then it's revealed that the boy, Peter, is being chased through the woods by goblins, the foulest creatures on Earth, according to Grandpa Seth.
Oh boy.
And then, so Peter rolls down a hill, and the goblins stop chasing him, and instead a beautiful woman with super fake freckles shows up, and is just, like, is beautiful, and Peter's, like, immediately horny. And so she seduces Peter into drinking this green slime, right?
Uh-huh.
So she's, like, very beautiful, and of course that's what convinces Peter to drink the green slime. And after that happens, it immediately cuts out to Joshua correcting his grandfather's grammar.
Ooh.
Like, there's this whole storybook scene that's going on, and then he's like, it cuts out to Joshua being like, Grandpa says, shouldn't it be was instead of were? And I was like, Joshua, that's not the most important thing that's going on right now.
Me, though. When I was younger, I was definitely the person who would, like, correct people's grammar. Including, like, I would often be wrong about it as well, which is, like, just another layer of but yeah, I identify with that. Also, how old is Peter? Like, is he a teenager or is he a young boy? I've forgotten.
Peter's, like, I think he's about the same age as the four boys. He looks like late teens, early 20s maybe, but he's also dressed like Red Riding Hood. So this is like an ancient story. This is like a fairy tale kind of era story.
Back from them cape-wearing days, I see.
Yes. It's so funny. He looks like a little page boy. And he's running through the woods, and then he falls down a hill, and, it doesn't go well for Peter. So then we cut back from Joshua correcting his grandfather to Peter lying on the floor of the woods, and he starts to sweat green.
Oh, mood.
Which is, like, how you know that someone's being affected by the green goo of the goblins. And Grandpa Seth goes, he started sweating chlorophyll green, the color of sap. And I just wrote no with 3 question marks, because I'm pretty sure sap is not that color.
Sap is, like, amber, I believe. Chlorophyll is what's in the leaves to make them green. Also, different leaves are different shades of green because that's different levels of chlorophyll.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot going on with that sentence. Also, like, gotta love just, like, the brief little, like, aside from Joshua on correcting grammar and then, like, back into it. I feel like if that had been written better, that could have been a cute little aside, but yeah, puberty brings interesting changes to the body sometimes. But at least it doesn't make you sweat green. That'd be awful.
It would be so weird. So, so it's like he's sweating green, and Grandpa says, like, that's the color of sap, and I just was confused and got distracted for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's revealed that Peter was turned into a half plant, half person, so that the goblins, who are vegetarians, can eat him. This is a good minute to step back and say that I've heard from our good friend Ignatius Lines that the reason this movie exists is because the screenwriter, the director hated the fact that there wasn't a vegetarian equivalent of people-eating monsters like vampires or zombies, and so he wanted to make a vegetarian equivalent, not because he was vegetarian, but because all his friends were vegetarian and he hated it. And so now you have these vegetarian man-eating goblins.
So, like, I gotta say, if all of his friends were vegetarian and then he made this movie, I'm just so curious, like, how many of those vegetarian friends he really kept around after that.
Yeah, how many
how do you
were
go
so,
to a movie that's like, hey, you know that dietary thing that you do? I hate it so much I made it the main, like, focus of my horror movie that's also very badly done. Like, that's not a good pal. That's not a good friend.
It's not. It's so weird. It's such a weird decision. But it produced this, yeah, so...
Also, like, sidebar, the goblins are chasing Peter through a forest. If they want plants, they're in a very planty place!
I know, but they can only eat humans that have been transformed into plants.
How the fuck did that evolutionary mechanic get started?
The druids from Stonehenge did it. It's so, like, the world building is none. There's no explanation for any of the choices, but I think it's implied that the goblins can only eat plant people and can't eat plants, which
so
I think makes them not vegetarian.
They were like, oh, we're fucked.
Yeah, they were like, ah, shit, we gotta get out of here.
Mm-hmm.
And then he sprinted off. So... To get back to it, Peter is then a half plant, half person, and he's being surrounded by a bunch of goblins, and then you cut back to Joshua in his bed, and he goes, they ate him? And at that point I was wondering, Joshua, where else do you think this story is going? Like, he seemed genuinely confused, and I was like, boy.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the whole thing. You learn, like, something about goblins and how they're the scourge of the earth from Grandpa Seth, who's just kind of like a narrator. And then Joshua's mom bursts into the room and is like, Joshua, what are you doing? And Joshua goes, I was just talking to, and then he slams his hand over his mouth, and there's this really great super zoom in on his face, like from The Office. And then it's revealed that Grandpa Seth is dead, and Joshua's hallucinating his dead grandfather. And
this is the bit we read. In playwriting, by the way.
Yeah, this is like the bit about how to do a bad reveal. So yeah, and then his mom comes and sits down and says, among other things, the great line of, Grandpa Seth has remained in all of our hearts, but you must banish him from your mind.
Like a mood. Healthy approach to grief.
Yeah, just forget. Just stop. Love him, but don't think about him.
We're gonna have to pull in the Men in Black if this keeps going on, Joshua. This is serious.
Yeah, this is not a joke, dude. Stop it. Just stop it.
Stop thinking about things. Just don't think.
And this is also the moment where it becomes clear to anyone reading this that, this movie was this movie, I believe, was written by 2 Italian screenwriters, and you can kind of tell because they speak in, like, very formal, almost high English, which makes the crazy things that they say even funnier.
Because these are, like, normal 80s people.
Yeah, this is, like, a very stereotypical American family, but they're speaking like they're from the 1800s royalty, and I love it, and it makes all the crazy things in this movie that much funnier. The mom is also... Okay, so Grandpa Seth and Joshua are poorly acted, but the mom is the first actor who has no emotion at any... Like, she has one tone, and she hits that note right on level the entire movie. And I love her for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright. So then...
Like, the dedication that takes is impressive to me.
Yeah, she has one emotion and she plays it right on the money, and I love it. It's so great. Then we cut away to see the mom walk into Holly's room, and Holly is the older sister. Holly's introduction is just her on a bench press in her room, just pumping iron.
Nice.
And that's like the whole scene. It's just the mom staring at her daughter as you get like weird close-ups of Holly in her room, and she's just working out. And, you know, I respect her. I was like, wow, buff girl is buff.
Yes, we stan.
Yes, we do. I love her. That's so funny. And then the mom goes downstairs to talk to the dad. And this is the first time you hear that they're going to the town of Nilbog.
Do you guys get it? Do you guys get it? Why it's called Nilbog? Do you understand it?
You got it?
Understand it? Write it down, then put it in the mirror, and then you'll get it. It's super smart and secret and hard to figure out.
It was so funny, because when we were watching that, I think all of us immediately clocked it, and I was like, wow, so unimaginative. But no, that comes up later, and it's a plot point.
Ooh.
So, yeah, they're like, we're going to Nilbog, and then the mom talks to dad, and she's like, look, I'm worried about our son hallucinating his dead grandfather. I just don't think it's healthy. And the dad's response is, when I was a kid, I had an imaginary playmate too. To which the mom says, but it wasn't your dead grandfather, which is a valid point.
That's a very fair point, actually. I think that's very good. I mean, like, say what you want about, you know, banish him from your mind but not your heart. But I will say that, like, having vivid hallucinations of a dead relative is a little bit different from imaginary friend. Though I will say that Josh appears to be in complete control. Like, it doesn't seem like he's mistaking it for reality. Like, he's just like, yeah.
Yeah,
you know?
he's fully aware his grandfather's dead. He's just like, yeah, he comes and he offers me wisdom, which is fair.
And he talks about boys getting horny in the woods for random fake freckled ladies.
Yeah.
You know, puberty is a confusing time for a lot of people. It's okay.
You gotta keep going and get through it, you know?
You gotta muscle through it.
Yep. And then you have... Okay, so then we come back up to Holly's room. Well, actually, you have a scene where Elliot breaks into Joshua's room, thinking that it's Holly's room, and, like, scares him, and then disappears. But then Elliot shows up in Holly's room, and he's like, I love you so much. Let's have sex. That's the gist of this scene.
The timing this man has.
That's the gist of the scene, is that I love you, let's have sex. And she's like, no, go to the bathroom and handle it yourself, which is a great masturbation joke.
That's so... You know what? That's great. If someone ever tries to do an unwanted advance on you, that's all you gotta say, man. Like, fuck it. No.
No, she's like, go to the bathroom, handle it yourself. To which he responds, you trying to turn me into a homo? Which is like, is masturbation gay? Is that what...
Fellas, is it gay if you masturbate? Because you're literally touching a dick.
Yeah, you're jerking off a dick. So is that gay though?
Is
so
it
yeah,
gay?
there's this insinuation that masturbation is gay.
Love that.
And then Holly goes on to be like, my father doesn't like you because you spend way too much time with your friends.
Oh no, an active social life.
It's like, my dad hates you because you have friends. So yeah, and then he's like, I don't spend that much time with my friends, which has the immediate great comedic timing of his three friends just appear in her window on one ladder. They're all at the same level of height, but they're on one ladder. So, you know.
There's some, like, cheerleading, like, pyramid kind of mechanics going on there, I think. But also, like, I love the implication because it's like, were they going to watch? Why are they there? Is one of them did one of them drive him to her house? And then, like, someone else brought a ladder, and then boy number 4 is just also there because he wants to support Elliot? Who knows?
They're his 3 supportive lovers, and I love that for them. Yeah, so she essentially gives him the ultimatum of, it's either having friends or having sex. She says, I can't, unless you stop being friends with these people, I won't have sex with you. That's
a hell of a bargain. Damn. Oof.
But this gets better, because the justification she has for that is, you take your friends to bed with you. To which I wrote, gay?
Gay!
And Elliot's like, you're trying to separate me from my boys, and he says my boys with such, like, deep emotion, which I also wrote gay to, because...
It's the fellas! The guys!
It's the fellas!
The dudes!
It's the boys. So, then we cut to the next morning. Holly essentially is like, hey, you really want to have sex with me, you gotta come on this trip with my family, because that's how you don't get blue-balled, is by going on a trip with your girlfriend's family. But he doesn't show up the next morning. She's and she's super upset about it, and then her dad's like, Elliot's a good for nothing because he loves his friends, and I was like, sir, stop.
Oh, there's a lot going on there. Does Holly have friends, is my question.
None of them have friends. Having friends is gay, and you can't be gay in this good Christian household.
Fellas, is having buddies gay? Yes.
Is having the homies, I mean, if you're a homosexual, you know, like...
I think that's what you call someone who's into friends with benefits.
That's true.
So moving on. The dad's like, no friends ever, no support network outside of your family. We are all you need, because, you know, it sounds a little bit like this family's a kind of very loose cult.
Yep.
Nice.
About to meet a real actual cult. And so then Holly and the dad start yelling at each other, which prompts the mom to tell Joshua to start singing, as if that's gonna solve anything.
We're gonna do some Von Trapp bullshit over here to distract from the incredibly distressing family argument over there.
Yes. Which proceeds to the most chaotic rendition of Row, Row, Row You Boat, which is a song that is supposed to be sung in rounds, but they sing it wrong. Like, the way that you're supposed to do rounds, they don't do that, so everyone's just off.
Oh, mood. And it's a funky fresh remix, is what it is.
It's a Row, Row, Row Your Boat remix. So then, we see the boys in their, RV that they rented. It cuts away to the boys on the side of the road in their arguing outside their RV. Just vibing. And then they're like, what does that say? Okay. I can't read what I wrote.
Oh no.
But they're essentially, Elliot convinced them to come to Nilbog by saying there would be plenty of fruity girls. I don't know what a fruity girl is.
Maybe he's just referencing, like, women's shampoo? I don't know. Those
Maybe.
Have fruity smells. Those are generally pretty floral. Yeah, or I'm thinking that also does sound like maybe, I feel like in the original Italian, that might be slang for gay. I feel like that is definitely, like, that is a term that could definitely be an offensive way to refer to a gay person.
Yeah, it could be. But it was very funny, because they were like, there's plenty of fruity of girls in Nilbog waiting to be deflowered, and I was like,
that's a bad joke. That's a bad joke.
Yep.
Ooh.
So then we cut back to the family in the van. They've stopped singing Row, Row, Row Your Boat.
Good.
And Joshua sees a hobo version of Grandpa Seth on the side of the road. He pretends he's gonna vomit and jumps out of the car and runs to Grandpa Seth. And Grandpa Seth is like, don't take your family to Nilbog. You're all gonna die. Which he isn't wrong about. You know, it's a valid point. They do all get very close to death. But he's essentially like, that place is a scourge of the earth and the evil lurks there. Because he talks in a very religious way. And
Listen,
go ahead.
You should listen to hobos who look like your dead relatives, especially if they sound religious, because that means they're closer to God, and they've seen what he has in store for you.
Yep. You know? He has it all figured out.
We are not liable for anything that you do if you actually legitimately follow this advice.
Yes. We take no responsibility. Be careful. Think things through.
Yes.
So yeah, it's essentially, he's like, don't go to Nilbog, everyone's gonna die, and then Joshua's parents pull the car back and are like, Joshua, why are you talking to that hobo? Because it's like, Grandpa Seth was just possessing someone, because then this person now looks nothing like Grandpa Seth, and is just a hobo.
See, I kind of figured they just had, like, one old man actor, and they were like, well, fuck, we need to, like, double cast the hobo and Grandpa Seth, I guess.
I suppose. Yeah, so then we cut back to the boys, parked by the forest. and they're just there, you know, vibing. And I guess that Elliot forgot to mention to his friends that he came here because he just wants to have sex with Holly, and that's his whole reason for coming here. Because they see that Holly's family drives by and doesn't stop for them. I guess they were expecting him to. Holly flips him off. And then this proceeds for Elliot and Button-Up Boy, who is number 4 and doesn't have a name, to get into a heated argument where they get really close to kissing for the first time, and then it cuts away. So,
Boy number 4 is jealous, and that's valid.
The sexual tension is high with this one. So then the family rolls into town at like 3 p.m. The sun is fully in the sky, it's super well lit, and no one's around, right? No one's hanging out. And so Joshua's like, where is everyone, Dad? And the dad's like, at this time of night, everyone goes to sleep, despite it being 3 p.m.
Early to bed, early to rise, I guess? Fuck, I don't know.
But maybe
this is a family of vampires, and that's why Holly was getting her workout in so late at night, is because that's the only time she can really,
true.
Get buff, get swole.
Maybe these are my people, just a clan of vampires.
Yeah.
But then they roll by just this, what looks like an empty storefront for like 20 white dudes to just show up in the window as soon as they roll by. Just a whole bunch of dudes. And they all just stare at the car. Which I guess is creepy, but I was like, this is just weird. It feels
I too would stare at a car if it came through my abandoned town. Like,
that's true.
You're like, what the fuck is this 4-door sedan doing?
Who are these people? Why? So then the family gets to the farm, because they're staying on a farm. They're doing a house exchange program, right?
Like Airbnb, but for the 80s.
Yeah, and the dad's like, we're gonna be farmers. And I was like, no, you're not. But yeah, so they're staying on a farm, and they get there, and they meet the family who's there. And they all have clover marks on their faces. This whole family of really creepy, really rude people. To which I wrote, they got eczema, like that one vine. But yeah, so they show up, and the people are rude, and, it's the vibes.
The vibes are off.
Yeah. So then Josh and his family go inside, and they're, like, looking around, and there's a whole bunch of food on the table. And I feel like it's pertinent to point out that at this point is when I realized that the production designers also didn't care, because all of this food is supposed to be, like, green to insinuate, like, oh, it's goblin food, they're gonna turn you into tree people. But they put 1% effort into this, and the prime example of this is there's a corn of cob that they're supposed to be like, oh, this is goblin food. There's just a line of green icing on it and nothing else. Like, they didn't even try to spread the icing around, they just put a line of green icing. They were like, it's goblin food, look at our A+ production design here. We put all the effort in.
I'm like, shit, did we bring any green food? Fuck. She's stuck in traffic? Fucking hell. Alright, well, we're gonna go to the craft table, we're gonna see what's
improvise. Yeah, we're gonna improvise.
Just whatever's available on set, we'll just do. Just fucking icing. I don't know, Greg.
Daniel, I told you that we need to have a plan. Sorry, dude, I just, we have like a $5 budget, man. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, so, while this is happening, a baseball rolls down the stairs. And lands in front of Joshua. Joshua picks it up, and in sparkly green writing, because why wouldn't it be sparkly? It says,
Paint glitter glue, it's fun.
Eat before we eat you. Which is, a fun thing to hear.
Cool.
So Joshua's like, oh, they're gonna eat my family. And this prompts another appearance of our favorite friend, Grandpa Seth.
Woo! It's Grandpa Seth time, woo woo.
Yes. So Grandpa Seth appears, he appears outside the window and starts talking to Joshua, and he's like, you gotta stop your family from eating the food. And Joshua's like, I don't know how to do that. I'm 4'0". And Grandpa...
I'm short and therefore powerless.
I mean, he doesn't say that, but I was thinking it. So Grandpa Seth is like, alright, I have a plan. And then he just stops time. And this is the first point on Grandpa Seth is God, is because he just stops time. He's like, I'm gonna stop time for 1 minute, and you gotta figure something out, kid. And then Grandpa Seth disappears.
His family is a line of vampires, and Grandpa Seth is the most powerful.
Yes, he has world-shaking powers, and I love him. So he stops time, and then he disappears. And then Joshua's like, how am I gonna do this? How am I gonna keep my family from eating this food? And instead of doing, like, something a normal person might do, like trying to flip the table or throwing the food on the floor, Joshua, the mad lad, stands up on a chair and starts pulling down his pants, and then the scene cuts, but you know, and I know, that he pissed all over that food.
Fucking champion. What a legend.
And his whole family's like, I can't believe Joshua's just pissed all over.
Joshua's having a mental break, guys.
Joshua's not having a good time.
He's hallucinating his, like, he's talking to hobos, he's hallucinating his dead grandpa, and he just beat all over his food. He needs help.
Yeah, and Holly's like, I'm gonna kill him, and I was like, bro, I think that's maybe not the answer.
I'm not sure Joshua can die.
Joshua's also immortal. Okay.
It's a family of vampires.
So his dad drags him upstairs to punish him, which comes a terrible line from Joshua, which was, what are you going to do to me, Daddy? And I was like, no!
No! Oh god, that's awful. Things that probably worked better in the screenwriter's native Italian.
Yeah. So they say that, and then not long after, the dad responds with, you want to get rough with me, which is like, why? Why? Okay, so they have an argument, and essentially the family decides that they're going on a hunger strike, because Joshua's going on a hunger strike. Because he doesn't want to get turned into a plant person. But his whole family is like, we're gonna go on a hunger strike too, because screw you, Joshua. And then the dad's like, remember when I was a child and I didn't have food, so I'm better prepared for this than you. I don't think hunger strikes are a competitive sport, but the dad just made it one,
Those are political statements made by members...
Yeah. So
fuck?
They're on a competitive hunger strike.
Also, not a single person in this, like, presumably well-off 80s family brought snack foods. What the shit? Like,
no, they were not
trail
prepared.
mix. Nothing. Just
nothing.
You're gonna buy all your groceries in this other town? You don't know what they have. Idiots. Anyway.
We'll get to that later. Alright. So then we cut back to the boys in their van. At which point Arnold, who wears a blue polo shirt and has glasses, and those are his two defining traits, he's like, man, I just gotta have sex. So he leaves the boys are like, we just want to stay here and vibe, and Arnold's like, nah, man, I'm horny, so I'm gonna go find someone to have sex with. So he leaves
you got three
the trailer.
People right there. What the fuck?
Yeah, he's like, I gotta go find a woman. So he leaves the trailer, and he sees a hot woman in the woods, just like a hot woman. She's blonde, she's running, and she's sweating green. Bad signs. Bad signs.
Yeah, I think, like, sweating green kind of cancels out all the other stuff, because at the very least, that's a concerning medical condition that you maybe don't want to get.
So, yeah, she's sweating green, and she's just sprinting through the woods in a blind panic. So Arnold sprints after her, and has a hard time with it, because he's an unathletic nerd.
Mood. To be fair, if I were running through the forest from someone, and some other random dude started running after me, I would probably run much faster. Like, oh shit, now I gotta deal with this twerp? Fuck.
True. Okay, so Arnold eventually catches up to her, tackles her to the ground. He's like, what's your problem, mate? And she essentially tells him, the goblins are after me. And then you get a turnaround to reveal a bunch of goblins with spears just there, just vibing. So Arnold goes up to them and he's like, hey, don't kill me or the hot lady, and gets stabbed in the stomach for his troubles.
Oh, damn. Who would have thought that...
Who could have predicted that one?
Yeah. Hey, pro tip. If you encounter someone running from something in the woods, maybe don't tackle them, because they're running from something that could potentially result in their immediate demise. Like, just... Good lord. For all you people who go running in forests in Houston.
Yes. In our very populous forests.
Mm-hmm. Well-wooded area, yes.
Yeah. So then it cuts back to the boys in their trailer, and they're just kind of vibing. None of them are concerned in the fact that Arnold went outside and then just immediately disappeared and hasn't been seen in, 2 hours.
Arnold's like the fourth wheel.
Arnold's the fourth wheel. And
poor guy.
Yeah, poor guy. So then Arnold, who didn't die, he just got stabbed, but he's fine, and this woman, go to a place that looks like a church, but isn't a church. It's this, inside, it's a super gothic house, which is revealed to be the home of Creedence, the witch lady herself. And she appears in, this very just dramatic way. So I wrote down, Creedence appears with all the gay drama she deserves, because she does. She's just there, and she's like, look at my house, I'm more powerful than you.
As well she should.
Yes, and she's a druid, so I wrote, she's literally right up your alley, and that's for you, Caroline.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that greatly.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember, seeing her, and I was like, okay, I can get why there would be, why she has powers of seduction and why those work. I understand. I wouldn't, I'm not sure I would fall for it, but I get it.
Yes. So yeah, she just appears, and she's like, I'm a druid. I'm here to fuck your shit up. And then she offers them the green goo.
Wait, wouldn't the other blonde girl have already had the green goo if she's sweating green? Isn't that kind of the progression of symptoms?
You assume consistency in this storyline, Caroline.
This is true. My mistake.
Or maybe she just wanted to accelerate the process. So
wait, this implies that the blonde girl was also seduced by something. Was it Creedence?
Maybe, but no, because she doesn't recognize Creedence. I think, because goblins can turn into humans, so maybe another goblin just turned into, an attractive woman.
Maybe that's just a goblin power, they can just all turn into hot ladies.
Yeah. Or hot dudes, maybe. In case they need to seduce someone who's only attracted to men.
That's true.
So then I wrote down, if a strange woman who had magic gave me a glass of green goo, I would drink it, rip to this blonde, but I'm exactly the same, horny and scared. Cause yeah, I think if Creedence was in front of me and she's like, drink this, I'd be like, I'm so confused and scared, I gotta do what I gotta do,
Uh-huh. Fuck it, I trust you, shit.
Yeah, and then so she starts turning into a plant person, and Arnold is like, what? Arnold is trying to force logic on this situation, and I commend him for that, but also, buddy, no, it's never gonna happen. So then the hot blonde just turns into a pile of lettuce, and a bunch of goblins come out and start eating her. To which Arnold responds, they're eating her! Because, that needs to be stated.
Observation from the guy with the glasses.
And then he deduces, and then they're going to eat me, which is a real Sherlock maneuver.
Again, astute observation. The alacrity with which he understood the situation is truly impressive.
It's also very funny because Arnold starts being able to he stops being able to move, and he's like, my legs won't move, but he doesn't look down. No point is maybe I could just look down and see, why my legs won't move. Instead, he just stands there looking straight ahead and panicking, and I'm like, dude, you still have full use of your neck.
Who knows?
So then we cut back to Josh in the bedroom he's been sequestered away in, which starts with him saying, I don't like this place, which, I didn't figure that out until this point. I really need you to tell me that. All your actions did not insinuate to me that maybe you didn't like it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought he was, Nilbog's #1 fan. Damn!
Yeah, I thought he was gonna get, a Nilbog t-shirt and just start telling everyone to come here, Mm-hmm. So then we go to Hoggy.
Huh?
We go to Holly voguing in her mirror in her room. Her room has this weird little cubby hole thing with a mirror. And she just is voguing in the mirror.
Mood.
And then she stops voguing and starts practicing her ultimatum to Elliot, which is, again, just saying, hey, it's either me or friends. You can have sex or you can have healthy relationships, and that's it. Your move, Elliot, even though Elliot's not there.
Elliot should choose the boys, because then he gets healthy relationships and sex.
That's true.
Also, good on Holly for being self-confident. Yes, we love to see it. Getting those fitness goals in. Been appreciating the work she's put in. We stan. The self-esteem. Truly impressive.
It's so great.
Feminist icon.
Yeah, so her ultimatum is then interrupted by Grandpa Seth's head appearing in the mirror and going, Joshua! Joshua! To
This
which
is the
Holly
second
starts
time that
screaming.
someone's burst into one of these kids' rooms thinking that it's, like, the other kid.
Yeah.
Like, put a sign on the door, maybe.
Yeah, and on your outside window.
Yeah.
So then Grandpa Seth appears and scares Holly, and then, so this results in a dialogue where the parents are like, why are our children hallucinating their dead grandfather? This is super weird. And then Joshua and Holly agree to switch rooms, to which Josh says, I'm not afraid. Famous last words, buddy. That's how you get killed.
I am not afraid. I'm not a pussy.
So then Grandpa Seth appears to Joshua in his new room and immediately critiques Joshua's dad.
Oh,
so,
mood.
And so I wrote, Grandpa Seth, is now really the time to be critiquing your daughter's choice of husband. I feel like you have bigger fish to fry, namely the fact that all of your family's about to get killed.
You know? Listen, there are like 3 people out of 4 that he wants to save, but damn if he's gonna like...
damn
he's not going for 100%. He's going for 75. He's going for passing.
Aiming low.
Yeah. Well, he's aiming exactly where he wants to aim, I think. He's kind of laying out his priorities as they are, you know? He's willing to cut some losses, and, you know, good for him.
Yes. So then we cut back. This movie has a bunch of weird cuts. To the boys in their trailer, and Drew is just desperately trying to be responsible, because he's like, we don't have milk or food. Like, come on, guys. But the 2 remaining boys are just laying shirtless in bed next to each other, and they're like, it's fine, we don't need food. And Drew's like, come on.
Drew's like, well, my boyfriend just got stabbed, so I don't have anything else to do, so I guess I'll go grocery shopping.
Yeah. So then, okay, this is also important. Drew wears pastel yellow.
I love that for him.
I love him. He's too cute. I am obligated to stan. This boy doesn't know what's happening and wears pastel yellow, and I love him so much.
Soft boy!
Yes. Also, back at the house, so he just goes outside and starts sprinting through the woods to town, because, you know, that's an effective way to get places.
Yeah, well, you know, if you need to run. And you can't exactly drive the RV, what with the 2 lovers busy in the backseat.
This is true. So then we go back to the house where the whole hunger strike plot has gone up in smoke, and they're now gonna go grocery shopping.
Oh, mood.
So yeah, the dad and Joshua set off to go grocery shopping. We go back to Drew, where as he's running, a cop car pulls up next to him, which is not great.
Sprinting through the woods without a permit, I see.
Well, no, now he's running just on the highway. He's just sprinting on the highway. At some point, he's gone from the woods to the highway.
A dedicated boy who wears pastel yellow. We have no choice but to stand.
Yes, of course.
Sometimes you just gotta get a snack.
Yeah, you just gotta run through the woods to get a snack, and I love that. So yeah, the car pulls up next to him, and the sheriff's like, hey, do you want to ride? And I was like, don't do it, you're gonna get killed. But Drew gets in the car and meets the sheriff, Gene Freak. That
sounds like a porn name.
It does sound like a porn name. It sounds so fake, and I was like, why? Mr. Freak himself. And Mr. Freak offers Drew a sandwich, which has weird green goo spilling out of it. Which, at this point, I just have to ask, if you were handed a sandwich with green goo spilling out of it, wouldn't you question that?
Yeah, I'd be like, is this like some leftover, like, St. Patty's Day sauce from McDonald's or something? Or is this like, I think I'm allergic to whatever that is.
But Drew eats it, like a real dingus.
Damn it, Drew, I was rooting for him.
He looks like he starts having a panic attack, because he starts looking really freaked out, and he's sweating green.
I would be freaked out too if I was sweating green.
Yes. So, he doesn't notice that he's sweating green. He just looks freaked out and sick, and he's also sweating green. But he gets dropped off at the store, which comes another one of my favorite lines in this movie. Because he goes inside to the store clerk, and he says, hey, do you have any coffee here? To which the store clerk replies, there's no coffee here in Nilbog. It's the devil's drink. Not alcohol, coffee, an entirely plant-based drink. I guess alcohol is also entirely plant-based, but...
Yeah, I think most beverages are in some way, shape, or form plant-based. I mean, aside from beef fizz, there aren't many meat-based drink options available.
I mean, there's milk, which brings us to the next point of... So, essentially, the grocery store confirms what we already knew, which is that the people of this town are vegetarians, but they have milk.
So they're not vegan, then?
They're not vegan. They have their weird chunky milk.
Plant milk.
Yeah.
They tried to make almond milk or, like, oat milk, but it just went weird.
Yeah, except, I think what they explained, they're like, this milk has extra vitamin C, which makes it chunky. And I was like, I don't think that that's how milk works, but, you know.
I think what happened is you added citrus to milk and then got surprised when it curdled, my friend.
You done curdled your milk.
Like, you can't put lemon juice in a dairy product and then expect it to all be fine. Like, just because one of them has vitamin C in it doesn't mean that, like, you need to put it... That's not gonna enhance it. That's gonna make it bad.
You're gonna just make things terrible.
What's the bet that the production team accidentally did that? Because they were like, oh, we need to make it... What if we put, like, extra vitamin C in it and it's just, like, a thing that we do for authenticity, and then it ended up going bad, and they're like, fuck it, lore!
You know, anything is possible with this film. I'm gonna be honest. Alright. So, then we cut back to Creedence's house, where Arnold is now, like, half tree.
Oh no.
He's like, partially tree, and Creedence is coming hard onto the part of him that is a tree.
Huh?
She keeps being like, my flower, my beautiful creation. I'm like, do you want to have sex with a tree? Like, I don't understand.
Oh my god, she's florasexual.
Yes, she is. And then she produces a pudding and starts monologuing about this pudding, and I'm like, this is so not interesting. Just like,
it's not a snack cup pudding, is it? It's not like a little
No, it's like one of those like big circular like handmade puddings with like a green line on it. Or no, a line that says welcome in green. And she starts just talking about this pudding to the tree Arnold.
Mood.
And then we cut back to you see that the dad and Joshua arrive in town, discover the shop is closed, and then Joshua begins to skate away from his father on his longboard like a real skater boy and discovers the church. Or no, sorry. He sees that the people are at church, and then he begins to skate away only to look in the mirror of a car and see Nilbog backwards and realize it's the word goblin. He sees it on it says like Nilbog Street or something, but then he sees it in the reflection and it says goblin, and this is the moment at which Joshua realizes that Nilbog is goblin backwards. And it's a major revelation overwrought with a lot of music. And then he begins to... His dad has passed out, just, like, fallen asleep in 20 seconds. So he begins to longboard away from his dad instead of, you know, trying to wake him up.
Yeah, like, on the street, fully?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, mood. I mean, you know, my dad does fall asleep in a lot of places, but typically it's when he's, like, sitting down or something. I don't think he's ever...
Well, no, he's sitting just in a diner chair on the sidewalk. And he's fallen asleep.
Then yeah, I can see that happening. That seems like a dad thing to do.
Mm-hmm. So, then we see, Drew stumbling through the woods.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
He do stumble. And I don't know, yeah, okay, we see him just stumbling through the woods. A scene that comes later hasn't come yet. So, it's just Drew stumbling through the woods, looking messed up, looking sick. Poor boy. Poor sad boy. And then Creedence appears at the house the family's staying at. And she offers this pudding to the mom, and is like, eat this. It's delicious. I made it myself. And then she looks right into the camera like she's on The Office.
Oh, mood. Fucking queen.
A queen. I love her. So then we get the reveal that the goblins are anarchist goblins, because on the outside of their church is just the anarchy symbol. And they never reference it, they never talk about being anarchist, but that's just there. I guess that makes them more evil in the eyes of these filmmakers, but you know, I just respect them more. Like, yeah.
Yeah, these are kick-ass goblins.
Yes, I love them. I love that was something that they felt the need to add. Their church is a junk shed. There's like a destroyed car in there. So it's like, you guys have a lot of empty buildings. Why is here where you have church, you know? And then you hear the pastor's speech, which is to the effect of meat is the devil.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. That's his whole point. He's like, the meat, it makes people evil and disgusting.
Not like us, who just turn people into trees and then eat them. That's fine.
Yeah, that is completely acceptable, and
As
definitely
God
not
intended.
eating people. Yeah.
As God intended.
As was intended by the holy authority. And then we cut to Holly, who's about to go confront Elliot, who so far has just two friends who've gone missing.
Mm-hmm.
So Elliot and Holly fight outside, and she punches him for loving his friends.
Mm-hmm.
Which then, so she, like, punches him for having his friends, and then boy number 4 comes outside. We cut back to Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
Who his presence has been alerted to the goblins because he dropped his skateboard.
No.
And then they found him, and now they're trying to make him eat ice cream, which is gonna turn him into, like, a plant person so they can eat him. His dad shows up and is like, yo, what the hell are you doing to my kid? At which point, Elliot escapes and then tries to convince his dad that they're goblins, but his argument is essentially, they're goblins! I saw it! And I was like, Joshua, that's not an effective argument.
Yeah, you're gonna have to, a little logos, ethos, pathos there, my man.
Yeah, he's trying to just invoke ethos. But, you know, as Monsieur would tell us, that's not how that works.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Oh well, poor Joshua.
Poor
I'm
Joshua.
surprised they didn't see the longboard and, like, that and the anarchy symbol. They were like, sick, one of us. Like,
one of our friends. No.
Yes.
No, they did not. They were like, we want to eat you, and Joshua was like, no! So, Joshua and his dad escape, and then the horde of people, they look like people right now, they just kind of, like, stand there, and they're like, our plans must come to fruition.
Okay.
So then we cut back to Elliot, who is defending his friends to Holly. He's like, yo, you can't take me away from my bros, even though half of them are missing. Only to immediately give in when Holly's dad shows up and says to the same effect, like, I don't like you because you have friends. You either come back with us to our house, or you never get to have sex with my daughter. At which point,
like
Elliot abandons his last remaining friends in the wood. Go ahead.
Well, that's a little bit of an overstep of boundaries, I believe, on the dad's part. Like, dude. And also, like, I just love that it's like, you can't stop me from seeing my friends because they're going missing all on their own. That's a problem that's gonna solve itself in another few hours, give or take.
Yeah. You don't need to take me away from my friends. My friends have been taken away from me. Yeah, so, oh, this is another thing. So, essentially, Elliot goes off, and the fourth boy's like, in an attempt to get Elliot to say, he's like, how do I know where all the liberated girls are? I don't know why they keep calling them liberated. I don't know what that's supposed to mean in this context. But they're like, we're gonna have sex with liberated women, and I was like, okay, buddy,
They're
sure.
looking for some feminist babes.
You know, they really are. They're just cruising.
They're forward-thinking, progressive young men in a polyamorous gay relationship who are just looking for some female companionship outside of that. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
They're in an open relationship and looking for some women to bring into their lives. Anyways, Speaking of the boys, we cut back over to Drew and Arnold re-encountering each other, because Drew's arrived at Creedence's house. Drew's just, like, there, and he doesn't notice Arnold for a really long time, and then he does. And he asks him, Arnold, what's happened? As if he hasn't clearly become part plant. Like, it's pretty obvious what's happened to him. I like the things in this movie where it's like, I feel like if you just rolled a perception check, you'd be able to figure some stuff out, but...
He got a nat 1. He knows there's walls and a door.
Yeah, that's about it. This poor boy. So at this point, Arnold has, like, a piece of bark covering his mouth.
Uh-oh.
And so Drew has to rip that off. Oh, that's what that was. I've forgotten how pro-gore this movie is, because it is kind of, like, there's a lot of weird, it's not super, like, gory or very realistic, but it does not shy away from open wounds and stuff.
It's not afraid of body horror. Okay.
No, it's very much not. So anyways, I had forgotten how weird that, like, ripping it off his mouth, because it feels like it's about to be really gory. It's not. They don't get into it, but it has, like, all the trappings of in a regular horror movie where you are about to see, like, a lot of blood. But instead, he just rips it off. It's very clearly like a Bane face mask situation. He spits up green, and essentially he's like, you know, get me out of here, man. I'm gonna get eaten by the witch lady. So Drew begins to try and drag Arnold out, only for Creedence to reappear and be like, why, hello there. And she fully throws Drew 20 feet onto the bed like a queen.
Yes!
And
love
then
to see it.
she says to him, like, I'm gonna make you something delicious. At which point she gets a chainsaw, and I don't know if this is what she actually does, but the joke we had is that she cuts off Arnold's dick and makes it into a smoothie for Drew.
Mood.
Again, seems pretty gay to me, you know, literally eating your friend's dick. On we go. I'm currently on page 7 for those listening at home.
Okay.
You know?
We're hurtling through.
Yeah. Then, at some point, okay, so then they get back to the house to discover that all the townspeople have convened on the house and are throwing a party.
Mm-hmm.
And the pastor man, in an attempt to convince Joshua's father that Joshua's stories about them being goblins are fake, says the phrase, children's fantasies, they roll past. Why did you phrase it like that?
A child's daydreams are but fleeting images upon the carousel of life. Yes.
They're just rolling on, and they pass us by, you know?
They see me rolling.
Alright. So then Joshua runs outside, he runs outside because he doesn't like the situation, which is fair. If there were a bunch of strangers in my house, I would also run outside. Yeah. And then the goblins are trying to feed the family food to get them to turn into half-plant people, but they have this really weird scene where they just have the 4 humans sitting down, and they're completely surrounded by goblins, which really makes it look like they're about to get cult murdered. Instead of fed food and then cult murdered.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think then Creedence... Okay, so then what happens is that Grandpa Seth appears.
Mm-hmm. As he does. King.
As he does. And a goblin comes out to mess with Joshua and Grandpa Seth. Grandpa Seth then cuts off the goblin's hand, which in reality cuts off Creedence's hand.
Whoop.
And then immediately hands his grandson a Molotov cocktail and says, when I say so, throw this into the house.
Grandpa Seth is rad, yo!
Grandpa Seth is insane.
Grandpa Seth had the anarchist cookbook, like, when it was first released. Also, just a side note / bad joke that I thought of, Creedence's milkshake does bring all the boys to the church, so.
A mood, though. So then, after Creedence's hand is cut off, we see her in her true form, which is just her, but with, like, fully black teeth, and then the most cold sore, like, her lips look like they were entirely taken over by cold sores that all exploded. She has, like, crazy messed up lips, and that's the only thing off-putting about her appearance, but she just starts screaming.
Mood.
Yeah, her, like,
I would too if my hand got cut off, quite frankly.
Yeah. So then the pastor, okay, so then Grandpa Seth and Joshua are outside holding, I think Grandpa Seth maybe has a gun at this point. He has, like, some plan. And then Joshua's a Molotov
Grandpa
cocktail.
has a Glock. We fucking love to see it.
Yes, we do. It's so great. And then the pastor appears outside and tells Grandpa Seth to go back to his kingdom of shadows, which I just put, like, you mean hell? You could just say hell. Like,
Kingdom of Shadows is way more metal.
True. And then I put Grandpa Seth is God, though. So, like...
Mm-hmm. God has a Glock,
God's
and
in
he's
hell.
gonna
You
shoot
heard it
you.
here first, guys. Yes. So then... Grandpa Seth, after being said this, after that said to him, Grandpa Seth just lights that man on fire and disappears. He's like, Joshua, you have to carry out this plan alone. With still having Molotov cocktail, and then he lights, Grandpa Seth grabs the Molotov cocktail from Joshua, uses it to light the pastor on fire, and then disappears. Like a king.
King! I stand. I stand one man, and it is Grandpa Seth.
He commits an act of arson and disappears like my actual grandfather. That's a joke. I was
remembering the time you said your grandpa did, like, use dynamite to make his brother dead or something.
One of my grandfathers has blown several things up, but he's, to my knowledge, never lit anything on fire. He's probably lit stuff on fire. He's never committed an act of arson.
Okay.
To my knowledge.
But he has exploded things.
Yes. This is what happens when you come from a family of actual farmers. Like, just people do crazy things, and you're like, yeah, the farming season's slow this year. So, then after the pastor's lit on fire, he is on fire for like 30 seconds and just running around screaming, which is very funny. But the whole family comes outside to discover this desiccated goblin corpse, to which the father says, "Oh my god, what is this? Your son keeps talking about goblins. What else would this be?"
Mm-hmm. 3 guesses as to what it is.
Yeah.
If the first guess isn't what Josh has been rambling about for the past, 3 days, you're stupid.
So then, after it's like, that's a goblin, dude, we cut back to Creedence, whose lips have somehow gotten even worse.
Oh, no.
Again with the oral fixation. So, yeah, they're more cold sorry, and then she calls down an air of night. So it's just, everything goes dark.
As well she should.
And she sticks her hand, so there are these 2 rocks in her house that have, a glowing light between them. She sticks her, stump there, and her hand regrows, because that's where the magic of Stonehenge comes from. Creedence is a druid who draws her magic from Stonehenge. And, again, they don't really explain this, but, that's just the thing that's true.
Ley lines, probably. I don't know.
So, she is called down an air of darkness to carry out her plans. Meanwhile, the goblins have surrounded the house and laid down a murder-suicide ultimatum for the family.
Okay.
Either you guys eat the food and kill yourself, or we come in and kill you. It'd be like that.
Yeah, kind of a false choice situation here. Not a whole lot of room for autonomy.
So then Josh is like, we should talk to Grandpa Seth. And the dad's like, no, Grandpa Seth's dead. And Josh is like, Grandpa Seth is the most useful adult in my life right now. Which is fair. Because he is.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
And then we've arrived at the corn scene.
And this is the part where the conflicting feelings I have about Creedence really kick in, because it's kind of shit.
So, Creedence has made herself hot.
Again. She fixed it.
Fully beautiful seductress.
Mm-hmm.
So I forgot that the first time we see, hot Creedence in the scene is when she appears on the TV screen in the RV over synth jazz fusion, carrying her corn, and being like, hey boy, this is to boy number 4, by the way, hey boy, come outside. So, he comes outside and encounters Creedence in all her glory with a black dress with a super high thigh slit, revealing a garter with a piece of corn in it.
I forgot about that, that's great.
Yeah, so she puts the corn in her garter. And then I wrote down, she's got big top energy, because if you go find that scene, she does have big top energy. Mm-hmm. She is fully in control of the situation.
She knows what she's doing. She's done it before.
So then she goes up to him and starts stroking his face in, a weird way, and he goes full, robot, no reaction to this woman just stroking his face. He, dissociates and is just...
Me too. She short circuits.
Yeah, he's out. He's out of it.
No brain, no name, no thoughts.
Yeah, so she pushes him into the RV, and down on the bed, and he gets super obsessed with her thigh. She's just, reveals her thigh, and he zeroes in, like the Terminator, zzz, on her thigh. And then she reveals the corn, which he's immediately distracted by. She pulls the corn back out.
I mean, I would also be very distracted if that were happening, then it's suddenly, produce.
She pulls the corn out, and she's like, do you want my corn? I think that's essentially the line. And he swallows and says, I like popcorn.
This is the point when we were all watching together 2 years ago that I think we all just started screaming very loudly.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to scream when I was watching it, but I was by myself. I didn't want to freak out my parents. Okay, so then she pulls out the corn and she's like, oh, that's alright. He says, I like popcorn, and she's like, that's alright. All we gotta do is heat it up. And when I first watched it, I thought this would be the moment at which one of them starts filleting the corn. That's not what happens. Instead, they both start making out with the corn.
That's not how you heat corn up. That's not the... Surely the RV has a microwave.
Yeah, I also don't think you can make popcorn out of just regular corn, because it's not a dried kernel.
Yeah, you have to, like, dry out the, fucking kernels or whatnot. So you can't do it with fresh corn.
No, I don't think so. So they start making out with the corn, but they're, like, making out with it and also eating the corn at the same time. And then popcorn just starts getting thrown on from off-screen. Like, they didn't even make an attempt to make it look like it was popping. It was just, like, they start throwing corn on them.
They just had, like, some, like, grips off-screen, just, like, fucking yeeting it from buckets.
Yeah.
Like, they went to a movie theater down the street that was probably showing a better movie, and then just, like, bought a whole fuck ton of popcorn, brought it back, and was like, yoink!
Here you go. Corn everywhere.
This is the scene that I think fundamentally changed me as a person, because, like, once you see that scene, it's, like, it's in my brain now, and I can't ever get rid of it. If you've
never seen it, look up Troll 2 corn scene. I believe you can find it on YouTube. It's the funniest thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was the point where I think the screams kind of reached a crescendo, and I think we got that part on video, and you can distinctly hear my voice yelling, "What the fuck?" In the background.
And I want to reiterate, all of this is happening over synth jazz. Like,
the sexiest
not actual
music.
jazz, synth jazz.
The sexiest music of the 80s.
Yes, the hottest. Then the jazz cuts out, and we cut to the seance to talk to Grandpa Seth. So they're, like, trying to call down... The family's trying to call down Grandpa Seth. Meanwhile, outside, the goblins are just firing rifles into the sky.
Mood.
Guess who's shooting? That's right, it's Sheriff Freak himself.
It's the Freakster!
Yeah. The one who dicked over Drew, and I'm still mad about it.
Drew deserved better.
So then Grandpa Seth returns from not hell, because he's not from... He assures Joshua that he's not in hell. No, he assures he doesn't say I'm in heaven, he just tells Joshua he's not in hell and then disappears. But he returns from hell, or not hell, in the form of the dead lights from it. It's just like big white lights just behind Joshua's head, as Grandpa Seth is like, I can get you to where you need to be. You know, like God would. It's almost
God
like
has a
Grandpa
Glock and runs
Seth
a taxi service. We fucking love to see it.
We love to see it. So Grandpa Seth tells him he can take him where he needs to go, but only if he concentrates, at which point Joshua makes a face that is not a concentration face, but is like a I have constipation face. So yeah, Joshua makes this really weird face, and then, you know, all of a sudden, Joshua's not there. It's a goblin in Joshua's place. And the goblins have invaded the house, and the synth music is back, baby.
Oh boy!
So yeah, the goblins have invaded the house and begin a merry chase with the family. Meanwhile, Josh is in Creedence's lair.
Uh-oh.
He's just there, looking around, having a bad time.
Creedence is still indisposed, I believe.
Yes, Creedence is making out with the corn, while boy number 4 also makes out with the corn. So Creedence has this very, like, dark, dungeony aesthetic, except she also has, like, these thin red curtains, which, and this is a joke that I'm proud of, even if it's not funny, Creedence's red fabric accents do a lot of work to add sex to the dungeon vibes of her house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see it.
So then a goblin comes out and starts, like, attacking Joshua, at which point Grandpa Seth appears and immediately punches a goblin so hard it dies.
Ah!
He just appears and he's like, yeah, you know,
God has
like
a
you
killer
do.
right hook.
Yes. So then Grandpa Seth and Joshua are like, how do we get rid of this? You know, what do we do? What is the plan here? So Grandpa Seth is like, you must get rid of the power of these stones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he starts using, okay. Alright, so he talks to Joshua about how to get rid of the power of these stones, and he gives Joshua a bag, and he says that in the bag is something with the power to stop evil. And remember that that's what he said was in the bag. This is very important.
The power to stop evil. Okay, I got it.
Stop evil. So this is what's in the bag. And so Grandpa Seth puts his hands on these stones and begins to use his god powers to try and destroy the stones. And Joshua's also doing it, but I don't know what Joshua can do.
I think Joshua's Seth's apprentice at this point. I think Joshua is meant to be Jesus.
Yeah.
Isn't Jesus actually, like, some kind of Greek for Joshua? Isn't that what's going on?
Maybe. I thought Joshua was just a biblical name, but you know.
Troll 2 is a Christ allegory, actually.
Yeah, Troll 2 isn't about hating vegetarians. It's really a retelling of the story of Jesus. Meanwhile, the goblins are still chasing the family, just around. They're vibing, they're chasing the family. Yes. It's a real Luigi's Mansion scenario, you know what I mean? Simultaneously to these two things, Creedence stops making out with boy number 4, who is now completely covered in popcorn. Like, just his face is visible and the whole bed is popcorn. She walks outside and just screams, because I guess making out with a dude was that bad. It was just a bad experience.
I mean, number one, she was, like, so against it, she had to, like, she couldn't even, like, actually directly make out with him. She had to make out with him, like, with a corn barrier. And it was still so awful that she had to go outside.
She went outside and screamed and called all her goblins to her, because she needs her emotional support goblins now that she's gone through that traumatic experience.
Exactly.
Rip to boy number 4. So then, back with Grandpa Seth and Joshua, Grandpa Seth's like, I must give up the last of my power to seal the evil. I will not be able to see you again after this. So, rip Grandpa Seth. Like, really rip. He's gone. He's not coming back, apparently.
Oh, no. He's ascended.
Creedence now appears. Her lips are worse than ever. She regained her mouth herpes after one makeout session. Because that's how it be sometimes,
Yikes.
You know? And then she, like, she has her goblins grab him, and brings out a pile of green goo, which is really greenish yellow goo, and just straight up looks like vomit. Which is, you know, what I'm feeling right about now in this film. So she's like, yeah, you know, eat this, and then we're gonna eat you, to Joshua. And Joshua's like, no! So he reaches in the backpack and pulls out the thing with the power to cure evil, which is, and I shit you not, a double-decker bologna sandwich, which isn't even a double-decker bologna sandwich. It's just a slice of bread, about 4 inches of bologna, and then a slice of bread. This is the thing that can cure evil.
Listen, they're Italian, they gotta rep that good Italian butchery business, I guess.
So that's the double-decker, if you want to know what the power of goodness is, that's a double-decker bologna sandwich right there. And Creedence and all the goblins start screaming when it comes out. They scream even louder when Joshua starts eating it. And then Creedence stops screaming and begins a monologue about just all, like, carbohydrates and fat and stuff. I don't know. It's a really weird monologue just about, like, all the bad things about preserved meats. Which is, I think, really plays into her overdramatic gay vibes. So, at this point, in her monologue, Joshua's whole family bursts in, and Joshua ushers them all over to the stones, and he's like, you gotta put your hands on the stones and focus, and then we can get rid of the evil. Like you do. And his family's all super hesitant, at which point I put, this is just Joshua wanting to say, put your hands on the fucking stones, goddammit. But he doesn't, because they don't swear in this movie, because that's not Christian.
And also because Joshua, I think, he's like 10.
Hey,
so... Yeah, but, like, his dad will, like, get mad at him for, you know, he has a contentious relationship with his father. I don't think he wants to put that any more weird than it is.
So yeah, they put their hands on the stones, and this proceeds to be the most underdramatic climax ever. I felt nothing. There was a bunch of lightning flashes, and sound effects, and goblins dying, and I was just empty. Just felt nothing. Creedence dies. Rip. She was too health conscious.
True queen.
So then they go home. They just go home. They all probably have PTSD, but they head home. The dad has to go to his office. Holly goes over to Elliot's house, presumably to finally have sex now that all of his boys are dead or buried in corn. So
we
never see him again.
Poor guy. He just drove the RV back on home with all the
he
popcorn
just
inside.
ate the popcorn and went home. So they go into the house, and the mom discovers that, mysteriously, apples have appeared in their fridge. and she eats one, and it really looks like she's about to foodgasm, but we don't address that. So they go upstairs. Joshua goes upstairs, leaving his mom alone to her apple. And when he's upstairs, he begins to hear this, like, creepy whispering, which is actually the single most, like, this is a legitimate horror movie element. I'm actually scared that I experienced this whole film. But he starts hearing this creepy whispering, and he's like, what the fuck? And he goes downstairs, and another ball rolls downstairs, and it essentially says, hey dude, we're eating your mom. So Joshua's freaking out, because his mom got, and then he starts rushing through the house looking for his mom, only to go into the kitchen and see surviving goblins eating her, because she's turned into lettuce, because you can't win. Oh yeah.
But he ate the bologna sandwich. Oh no, how did that not defeat all evil in the world? What?
I don't know. And then it just ends. Like, the goblins are like, hey, do you want a bite of your mom? And then Joshua screams and it ends.
Mood. Oh, yeah. Damn.
And then also, my last note was also, what happened to the boy who made out with Creedence? Like, that feels like an unresolved storyline, but, you know, you win some, you lose some. Mm-hmm. So this has been my extensive notes on the plot of Troll 2.
My god.
Yeah.
Just wow.
That's the film.
I forgot the corn garter thing. That's great.
There's a lot of it that I forgot that upon rewatching I was like, well, I definitely have to mention this. So yeah. Now I realize that anyone who listens to this, you have no reason to go watch Troll 2 unless you want to see this bullshit for yourself.
Yeah, which I recommend. I mean, from what I remember, it's a fun time to watch and make fun of. Jesus Christ, Grandpa Seth really is
God, and you know, I love that for him.
I love that for him. Yeah.
He's such...
I trust Holly and Holly only to get herself out of that situation without dying, though.
True. She's is buff girl. I think it's also, like, the movie never has any actual fight scenes, which is, like, there's so many scenes where it's like, yeah, you could just punch a goblin right now. And that would be cathartic for me as the audience, but they never do it. You never see any of the goblins get punched, and that makes me upset.
No goblins were harmed in the making of this movie.
I do recommend, if, like, you want to see anything from Troll 2, go look up the goblin masks, because they're so, like, obviously fake. Because clearly this movie didn't have a CGI budget, or very much of a props budget at all, but, like, some of the goblins, I just look at, every time I look at them, I have to laugh, because it's so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. God,
what a good time.
Yeah. It's just so great. And, like, just the fact that I believe we discussed this a little bit, like, while we were, I think, again, Iggy may have brought this up or something, but at some point we found out that, like, not only do the screenwriters not, like, English isn't their native language, they're not super fluent in it, they, I think, refused rewrites. They were like, no, we're not gonna look at this and make it better. We're not gonna take the advice of actual English speakers. We're just gonna leave it as is.
That's really great. I think another thing that's really funny about this is that the reason this movie is called Troll 2 is because they wanted to cash in on the success of the movie Troll. It's not a sequel to the movie Troll. It has no relation to the movie Troll at all. But they were like, you know, it'd be a funny marketing ploy if we were like Troll 2, so we tricked people into coming to watch it. Which is, you know, I respect that. Yeah. I think that they played the game, they played it well, they knew what they were doing. Mm-hmm.
And now it has, like, a cult status, like, it's a cult classic status among people who love bad movies. So, you know, it isn't all bad for the people who wrote this. Yeah, but it is just, it's great. And where is this movie available if our good listeners were so inclined to take a peek at Troll 2?
It appears that it is available on, according to Google, it's available on Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, iTunes, and Vudu. This movie has a 2.9 on IMDb, a 6% on Rotten Tomatoes, and 53% of Google users like this movie.
Yeah. I am very surprised at the 2.9. I thought for sure it would be lower, but this movie does have a lot of fans, so. I believe there's a Troll 2 festival as well for, like, people to go to, like, super fans of the movie to attend.
Oh, man. That would be so funny. Let's see. Troll 2 Festival. What is this? Okay, I'm on a Video Gum article. From 2008.
Oh boy.
I think in 2008 there was a festival, but I don't think that there's like a yearly one.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it looks like just in protest to it not being considered one of the not being considered for the title of worst film of all time. They were there was like a festival to celebrate the movie. Yeah, it looks like that there was like a one-off festival, from what I can tell.
Damn. Well.
Yeah. Here's some other great things. So, this is my favorite thing is looking at movies and looking at their plot keywords on IMDb.
Yeah, because when we did this for the scene, like, we read this, like, that weird opening, like, reveal scene, but we had no context for the rest of the movie, so we looked it up on IMDb, and Piper was like, why does it have corn as one of the top 5 keywords? And we were like, huh, what is up with that? And then we saw the making out with corn scene, and we were like...
Yeah, because I remember I was the one who looked it up, and I was looking through the plot keywords, and they were all kind of normal. They were like, blood, murder, axes. I don't know why axes. I don't think... No, blood, murder, chainsaw, I think green goo, and then corn. Corn was the 5th plot keyword at that time, which we were like, what? But now the plot keywords go corn, cult classic, green fluid, inconsistency, sexual innuendo. I don't think that it's an innuendo. I think people just want to have sex. Like, people are openly horny.
Yeah. Yeah. Homoeroticism, I would say.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, from those 2 scenes. But yeah, no, it's a very funny movie. And I think also the fact that there's a 20th anniversary Nilbog edition of this movie. Sorry, I got distracted. Yeah, you can...
That's very good, though.
Mm-hmm, you can buy the 20th anniversary version off Amazon if you so desire. I don't know why you would, but yeah, it's a very funny movie.
I just raised my hands, but then I realized you can't see me, so whoops. That's the fun thing about having my video of me freaking out for this entire call, is that's kind of what's going on with me right now.
Mm-hmm. That's fair.
But yeah, it is, yeah, I do really miss, like, just getting together with people and, like, watching movies to make fun of them. I think probably one of my favorite examples of this is I think we were watching A New Hope or something, and at some point during, like, when Luke's trying to blow up the Death Star or some shit, Miguel made a sex joke, and then the next line was like, pull out, I'm trying! And then every single line after that did in fact work as a sex joke.
Yep.
If you framed it that way. In that entire scene, it was the best experience of my life.
I think another movie that was, it's not even like a bad movie, it was just something that was really funny, is when we all tried to watch Ratatouille together. Which is like, I don't know how much you can actually make fun of that movie, but we found enough that one of us got really mad at the rest of us about it. Yeah. I think there's, do you know who Jello Apocalypse is on YouTube?
I have heard of him.
Yeah, he does like this, so this is basically Adventure Time, but he also does this really funny series, where he ranks, like, all of the movies of something, like, he ranked all the Pixar, or did he do Pixar? I know he did all of DreamWorks, all of Disney Princess, or maybe, like, all Disney Studios movies, but he goes through and he ranks movies, and he has a ranking which is really good, where he does a -10 to 10 rating, so from, like, 0 to 10 on the positive side is, like, good quality movies, but then from 0 to -10 is, like, movies that are ironically good or are very good to make fun of and to watch with friends in a way that it's, like, funny, which I think is a really good way of approaching, like, looking at movies, because there are a lot of movies where, like, Troll 2 and, like, several other films, objectively bad, or not even movies, like, I think of the show The Politician that we were watching, where it's like, it's objectively very cringy, but what made it watchable was the fact that we were watching it together and that we could make fun of it.
Yeah.
And that we both kind of acknowledge, like, this is ridiculous. The thing that we're watching is ridiculous.
Yeah, it really was. And, like, I watched the latest season of The Politician on my own. And, like, the shit that they did, the whole point of The Politician in the first bit is, like, oh, Peyton, who's this guy running for student body president or whatever, is getting tutored by this other guy named River who's really cute, and then Peyton somehow or another ends up crying during this Chinese lesson that River is tutoring him in. Then River's like, this emotionally vulnerable moment in which we have spoken approximately 5 words of Chinese is the exact right time to make out with this man. And then there's like a whole thing that happens, and it's like, oh yes, they're secret lovers, star-crossed lovers. And then in the second season, they're like, he just wanted to be close to River, but not in like a gay way. Neither of them were ever gay to begin with. They're both completely straight men who just wanted to make out that one time and have sex that other one time. Yep.
They were homies, but they weren't homosexuals.
Which I call bullshit, but
sometimes you're so deep in the closet that even your own screenwriters don't see it.
Yeah.
And it really do be like that, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like other shows that are so bad they're funny. Another good example, and we brought brain. Another good example is like a lot of Scooby-Doo movies are objectively not good. Like, it's a Scooby-Doo movie, it's not a high-quality film, but they're very funny, and they're very, like, just so dumb that they're funny. A good example of this is, like, the one where it's, like, aliens, which part of that movie is very boring, but it's, like, yeah, they were just like, yeah, someone straight up faking being an alien because they want to keep this silver mine hidden, which is, like, a dumb plan, but is very funny.
Yeah. Yeah, and like something I did kind of towards the beginning of quarantine was I found the newer seasons of Mystery Science Theater 3000. I haven't watched the first bits, and like, the newer stuff, I'm not gonna say is like super enjoyable, like, I don't think it's really made me laugh out loud, but it is fun to kind of at least watch people making fun of a movie together, even if like I can't personally do that. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's just my little parasocial quarantine thing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yes. I also, the problem with me is that, I can't do that in my house, because if I make funny commentary during a movie, my dad just is not happy with me.
Yeah, same.
He's like, stop talking, and I say, but I want to talk, because I have funny things to say, and then he tells me I'm not as funny as I think I am. With his eyes, not with his words. He doesn't say that with his words, but he says it with his eyes, and I'm like, okay, Dad, I will shut up.
Yeah, my parents are the same way. Like, I can't watch a movie in the same room with them, because I'm like, well, that's stupid. Why would he do that? And I was like, shut the fuck up. Suspend your disbelief. I'm like, no, this is dumb.
Nice. Were you one of the people who got yelled at Coco? Were you?
No, I wasn't at Coco.
Okay. Because it must have been myself. I know it was myself and Anissa, and I think Mariah, but we got yelled at. So a bunch of us went to see Coco in theater. Was it Coco? Yeah, it must have been Coco, because we were making fun of a Disney animated short. A bunch of us went to go see Coco in theaters, and I was sitting between two of our friends, and the three of us were just like kind of taking the piss at the previews and the short before the movie. So not like the actual movie, we were gonna shut up during the movie. But we were just talking and making jokes, kind of, maybe not super quietly, but definitely like not yelling or anything. And the guy in front of us turned around, he was like, will you guys shut the fuck up? And I was like, dude, it's a kid's movie and you're 38 and you're not here with a child. Stop.
Yeah.
Stop. But I think it is funny, because, that it was just like a funny thing that happened. And, I also think that there's some people who get way more into like telling other people to stop having fun than they maybe should. But
yeah,
but that was just a funny experience. Was this guy got so mad at us for talking in a movie theater?
Yeah.
But it be like that sometimes.
Well, I gotta go pretty soon.
Ooh.
So this is a short episode.
I mean, it's still longer than the runtime of Troll 2, so,
We've done something.
Yes.
Alright. We've made a thing. It's not an insubstantial thing. So yeah, shall we do the outro?
Yes. Am I
okay?
Who's reading it?
I think probably you, because I can't pull it up without my computer freaking the fuck out of me.
Right. Okay, cool. So, we have an official outro now because we're getting professional. So, thanks to sawsquarenoise on the Free Music Archive for the use of their song Tower Defense Ending. Potential sponsors, if you're out there, HelloFresh, Blue Apron, ExpressVPN, local businesses, small businesses, large businesses, anyone, please. Our email is heynerdpodcast@gmail.com. We are waiting for sponsorship opportunities. Listeners, rate and review us on iTunes. Tell our friends about us. Email us fun stuff at heynerdpodcast@gmail.com. And remember that we're available most of the places podcasts are distributed, including the big ones: iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and our wonderful host, Anchor FM. And check back next Wednesday for our next episode, which
is going to be a wholesome episode, I think.
Yeah.
And it's something that we are actually both experts on, I think. I'd like to think. We are experts in our field on this one.
We are probably the most well aware of this specific field that we're going to be talking about. So, we won't sound like we don't know what we're talking about for once.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, if we sound like we don't know what we're talking about, I would be very sad. But yeah, check back for that. It's going to be a wholesome episode, so kind of a break after these past two ones where we kind of ruthlessly make fun of things. And yeah.
Yeah.
Stay safe, everybody. Wear a mask. Stay indoors.
Stay safe out there.
Yeah.
All right. This has been fun.
3, 2,
1.
Bye, nerd.
Bye, nerd. Pretty good.